Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and rock and rollers. Welcome to the ElectroJet Rock Show. This is show number 19. I'm your host, Jett, and I have with me on the other line, coming from Los Angeles, Professor Electro.
Welcome back, rockers. Welcome back. Thanks for coming and checking us out. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel.
All right, rock and roll. So what we're going to talk about tonight is the Beatles. I really am quite a big Beatles fan. And I remember the first time I really heard the Beatles and understood the impact of them. And yeah, I like the early stuff. I love like if you're going to get the Beatle records and you don't want to buy every single one. There's the ones that are from, like, I think it's called 63 or 61 to 67 and then 67 to 70. There's like a blue one and a red one. And they're both double records. Those are that was my initial start to the Beatles. So
yeah, they're kind of greatest hits compilations, I think.
Yeah, so it has all the stuff there. Yeah, the songwriting's phenomenal. The playing's phenomenal. Yeah, I love the early stuff. So what do you think, Professor?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons we're talking about the Beatles is just their influence on 70s and 80s rock. Although they were kind of, ending there in early 70s, they just still had such an influence because they became the prototypical rock band. You had the two guitar players and the bass player and the drummer, and then, everybody singing or, most of the musicians singing backup, singing lead, and they were the first rock stars, I think. There were probably, you could make arguments there were others, but, really, when you look back, they were kind of the first, or at least right among the first of those, playing stadiums and the Hollywood Bowl, places like that, touring. Obviously Elvis came before that, but this was an actual band, so I think they really set the standard, and then songwriting, of course, and just every facet. They're just, a lot of people say that they're the greatest, most influential band of all time, and it's hard to argue against it.
Yeah, even Richie Blackmore says that they're the greatest band ever. Which coming from him, that's saying a lot because he's worked with the greatest musicians in the world. I mean, yeah, Ringo's drumming is very underrated. Supposedly he was left-handed, but he played a right-handed set, so that's why his tom fills are a little outside the box. I always loved Ringo's drumming, actually. You can tell when it's Paul drumming on some of the stuff. It's a lot more just basic. And not quite the swing to it, and not the cool creative drum fills that Ringo does.
Yeah, absolutely. You could say McCartney's bass playing is kind of underrated also.
Oh, no, he's phenomenal. Absolutely. They all were. Even George. I like a lot of the George songs. There's one song called... but his songwriting, like, It's Only a Northern Song off the... Yellow Submarine record, it says in the lyrics, it doesn't really matter what chords I play or time of day or if my hair is brown. And the chord progression that's going on behind when he's saying that is absolute genius. So, I got to give George a little props there. Props to all the engineers, all the crazy things that they tried, and all the crazy requests that the Beatles would ask the guys in the lab coats, the engineer guys at Abbey Road. Yeah, I love all that stuff. I can get into that.
Yeah, you got to give props to the other George Martin. That's a lot of people are called the fifth Beatle, but the argument could be made for him because he was in on the engineering, obviously, but also bringing in classical instruments. And classical music, classical progressions.
Well, he wrote the scores. He literally wrote the scores for a lot of the Beatles string stuff.
Right. Yeah, and I think he really expanded the the musicianship of the players by introducing them. He was kind of a good teacher at the same time. He seemed like a very patient guy, at least from what I've seen in, the videos of him.
Yeah, and they really liked him though from the get-go though, because he worked on the Peter Sellers comedy records, and Peter Sellers, man, I mean, that guy's a genius in himself. I love all that stuff. So that's why George Martin, they really liked him right off the bat, and they produced some phenomenal stuff. I tend to like the earlier stuff, not so the White Album and all that stuff. I tend to like the more production kind of stuff, but anyway, so don't forget to like and subscribe, kids. Do you have anything else you want to add before we sign off?
Oh, I think just that the Beatles were also great collaborators because, they had worked with other people that some people call the fifth Beatle, like Billy Preston and Jeff Lynne. Jeff Lynne was there when they were recording the White Album and had a huge influence on him. A lot of people, even John Lennon, called ELO the sons of the Beatles because obviously there was a huge influence. But even after the Beatles broke up, he was he worked with George Harrison to get George Harrison's career. He had a big resurgence there in the 80s, probably a lot because of Jeff Lynne. So, they were great collaborators. Also, just a great all-around band. We could go on forever and ever about the Beatles, but probably about time to wrap up the show. What do you think, Jett?
Yeah. So this is Jett and the Professor signing off with the ElectroJet Rock Show number 19. Rock and roll!
Rock and roll!